Hello, my name is Andrew. Today I want to be talking about my research into human trafficking and specifically how we can better help victims of human trafficking. So in order to talk about how to help victims of human trafficking, I first kind of want to talk about what human trafficking looks like in today's world. The first thing is it exists almost everywhere. It's a global criminal enterprise that affects the Americas, Europe, China, Asia, everywhere in the world. There's not really a place that doesn't have human trafficking as part of it, at least in the underground. We can kind of see proof of this with there being an estimated 40 million slaves worldwide. It's coming from an article titled Slavery Today. But they talk about a lot of the other stuff. It also shows that human trafficking accounts for about $150 billion in profit a year. And so this kind of shows that human trafficking is a very large issue, clearly. They have a lot of power. They're bringing in about 150 billion in profit. And even with a lot of our policies or stuff to try and stop it, it's clearly getting around. And there needs to be improvements. This information kind of shows us that human trafficking is an issue that still is not solved. So now that I've kind of talked about what human trafficking is like in today's world, I kind of want to break down some of the issues that are related to human trafficking, especially when you're trying to look at solving it or helping the issue. The first thing is that there's just a lot of factors that come into play when looking at human trafficking. It is such a vast organization, best way to say it, I guess. But it is practiced differently throughout the world. It affects people differently. There are different types of traffickers. There's a lot of things that come into play here, so it's not a very clear-cut, simple solution when looking at it. So this research kind of broke down categories that would be useful to look at when trying to solve this issue. And it kind of came to the conclusion that one of these categories would be how we can find and punish traffickers or improve our ability to do so, just to kind of keep the people who are practicing this locked behind bars. So hopefully there would just be overall less human trafficking in the world. The next one would be kind of how can we identify victims. If we can't properly identify victims or do it more efficiently, then we're just allowing human trafficking to continue on and not giving people the help that they could so desperately need. And the next thing is, what help should we be providing when speaking of help? There's a lot of things that go into play when looking at human trafficking, especially when helping victims. There are mental problems or mental issues, the trauma of being part of human trafficking, the trauma of not knowing what society is like anymore. These people have been kept away for so long, some have, and just other things that we should be looking to improve so that we can provide the victims with the help that they need. And yeah, those are kind of the issues that this research broke down, at least the categories, when looking at kind of ways that we can help solve the issues related to human trafficking. So now that I've kind of discussed what human trafficking looks like in today's world and the issues that this research kind of broke down that are related to human trafficking, or at least when trying to solve human trafficking, I kind of want to talk about why this research decided to use an interdisciplinary approach when looking at the issue of human trafficking. And the main reason is that it is such a diverse issue. A lot of the information before has kind of shown that human trafficking affects the world in a lot of different ways. It affects different places of the world. It's practiced differently. The victims normally have different issues that they need help with. So tackling this thing is an extremely complex problem, and that's where interdisciplinary approaches come to play. An interdisciplinary approach uses multiple disciplines when trying to solve their issues or applying it to problems. Basically what this means is they take information from two different fields of research that have their own way of researching and viewing things, and kind of compares and contrasts the knowledge to find the gaps or connections or something that can kind of give you a more overall view of the issue. And because human trafficking is such a diverse issue, this research feels that a broad view will be able to see different solutions when looking at human trafficking. Because it does affect things so differently, one specific fix might not work. You need to look at how to apply things, or where information from one thing can be helpful to another discipline or practice that is involved with stopping human trafficking, or at least helping the victims. So in order for this research to look at this from a interdisciplinary perspective, I had to first choose kind of related disciplines that could potentially provide solutions to the issue of human trafficking for this research to kind of look through and use their perspectives for. For this, I decided to choose information technology and social services. This is mainly because of their importance in today's world and what they could provide the issues of human trafficking and helping people, or helping the victims of human trafficking. The first one I'm going to talk about is kind of information technology. The first thing that the literature review of this research kind of found or mentions is that technology can provide important tools. Some of the information in the literature review showed that there is successful tools that help better identify victims of human trafficking and other things like that. And while they didn't have any way to implement them or research into that, it looked like it could be effective in improving our ability to identify who is a victim and hopefully provide them with help. But it still needed more research. The other thing is that technology can be used to better track people and things. While there are like the benefits of tools that can identify people and stuff, at the end of the day, technology kind of provides this trail of information that could be gathered and stuff. So if a victim were to be found, it's easier now to find who their ancestors were, if they have any family members or something like that who could provide them with some extra help or make them more comfortable in society. But it could also better help track down some traffickers and stuff, but this research wasn't mainly focused on that. So for this research, we kind of looked at ways for technology to be used to track and provide security for victims, and that can be things through like video doorbells, video conferences, and provide them with a little bit more comfort. The next thing I want to talk about though is social services. So social services is important when talking about human trafficking and helping victims, mainly because social workers are the closest to the victims of human trafficking. This is basically like the fact that social workers are first off are the main person who will have contact with a victim of human trafficking, be that before they are identified or after. They have the most contact with them. But this also means that they know what they need the most. So their information, using the social services information, provided this research with the ability to understand or have a better understanding of what need to be provided for for the victims of human trafficking, for them to actually be comfortable and kind of re-enter society and things like that. The next thing about social workers is it's just what provides them with the help they need. It's the one who hires the workers. It'll get them their medical stuff. Social services is the way for these people to re-enter society and actually hopefully live a life that they could enjoy and not have to deal with the issues they were dealing with. No matter what, it will still leave a fault. But social services is this research's way of understanding the needs that the victims need and hopefully being able to understand what can better provide it. So now that I've kind of discussed why we chose these disciplines and everything like that, I did mention some of the findings on the last slide, but I do kind of want to talk more about the findings of this research, or at least get more in depth about what it discovered. And the first thing was that there's a gap in the discipline's perspectives when looking at the disciplines of social services and information technology. and how they researched this topic. If you looked at a lot of the research from social services, it was a lot of qualitative information that described the feelings and emotions and what the victims of human trafficking needed. They kind of proved that many victims can't live in comfort. They can't like re-enter society comfortably and things like that. They have physical traumas that they have to deal with. It could be things like eating disorders, STDs, other things just from living an unhealthy lifestyle or unhealthy life while being treated poorly inside of these human trafficking organizations and everything like that. And that was very useful in providing that information, but it was missing information on how to truly help them or like ways to implement them. And this is where information technology kind of came in. This research in the technology field was a lot more quantitative, but they were able to prove that there are tools and things that can help provide or improve victims' lives. It can provide them with a sense of security through things like video communications for doctor's appointments and stuff like that. There's the tracking technology that was mentioned earlier. This can be used to either provide people with a way of letting somebody know where they're at all times, or like as a deterrent for human traffickers re-kidnapping somebody, because they understand that they will have a tracker or something like that that will make it less enticing for them to retake somebody. And one of the big things was that this research noticed that these two disciplines, if they work together, could be extremely useful, or working together could be extremely useful, basically because of the fact that technology provides the solutions and tools that the social workers need and know how to implement. And so in conclusion, the purpose of this research was to find ways to better improve our ability to help victims, mainly to find and provide them with the sense of security that they so desperately need in order to re-enter society and live a comfortable life, but also by just improving our ways of providing them with actual security, not just the feeling of it, providing with actual security, the medical care they need, and just the tools that social service workers need to provide. This study kind of showed that there was a gap in the knowledge between technology and social services, and showed that if these two were to work together and provide implementations or how they need something or what needs to be built or things like that, there would be a definite improvement in our ability to provide for the victims of human trafficking. And that was kind of the purpose of this study, was to find different ways to improve. And so thank y'all for listening.